Rajiv Venkatraman, Chairman of our Southern region, to kindly start with the welcome address and to introduce the program. Of course, I will also say a few words here. Is that we have started this process of regionally focused programs, while members from all over the country participate in this. But these are focused in different regions, and most of the speakers are from that region. So we get to hear more about what is happening in that area. And I think that is the main purpose right now. The one good thing is that with these online platforms, anybody can participate. So this is the positive side of what we are now experiencing. And today we will be speaking about the automotive electronics sector and the opportunities for components there. And we are also discussing something about human resources and skilling, which is another very major issue and a big challenge that many companies are facing. So with those few words, I will leave it to Mr. Venkatraman to kindly give the welcome address. Over to you, Rajiv ji.
Thank you, Raju ji, for organizing this program. Welcome to all my friends, participants, and panelists for the second edition of the ELSINA Southern Region webinar. After our first webinar, which was conducted in the month of March, where we found excellent participation and a forum where all of us could speak, interact very freely. We decided that we should continue with this programs, and we had the second edition organized now. And I'm very happy to share with you that we will be discussing about automotive electronics today, about the sourcing opportunities across the automotive value chain, which is a very interesting topic for all of us, followed by a discussion on human resources for high-tech manufacturing. Needless to say that this is a very, very exciting time for all of us who are working in the electronic sector. ESDM and electronics manufacturing has never received more attention from the entire value chain, from all the constituents, from government, industry, across the country, who are all focused on looking at the electronic sector. Now, electronic software has, like all of us know, has boomed over the last 20-25 years, but electronics hardware has fallen behind. But with the impetus which has come from the government looking closely at the imports of electronic goods, electronic components in the last 5 years, massive shift in thinking has taken place. The emphasis has resulted in major game-changing schemes which have been announced by the government today, starting with the PLI schemes, which was considerably pushed forward by the electronics industry to close the gap between the manufacturing efficiencies which are found in countries neighboring India, where we have not been able to catch up. So the government has announced very exciting schemes to help nudge the industry to invest more in this sector, to look at the opportunities at a larger scale, and to catalyze the industry to grow and to make it grow to global sizes. So, with this in mind, ELSINA has been organizing many discussions with the government to iron out the schemes, to make it more industry friendly, to make it more investment friendly, and to advise the government on what can be done to improve the schemes. So this has been going on, and I'm very happy to state that the efforts which have been done by ELSINA are helping make the schemes become more industry friendly and implementable by many of the companies which we are working with. So keeping that in mind, one of the things that is happening is when the opportunities are there, we need to link up the user industry with the manufacturing industry and open up potential for all the electronics manufacturers in the country. And in that respect, we are very, very happy to have our three speakers today on automotive electronics, starting with Mr. Barkatullah Khan, who is the Senior Director of Asia Operations for Visteon, and Mr. Claudius Fernando, who is the Director of Woody Automotive India Private Limited, and Mr. Srinivas Aravapalli, CEO of Blue Binaries Engineering Solutions Private Limited. So we have these three wonderful speakers with us today to share what the opportunities in sourcing are. And this will be followed by a very interesting discussion on human resources for high-tech industry. Now, we are seeing a very interesting moves happening by the government on one side to support the industry, and on other side where the government is also considering what's happening to the workforce and the kind of skills and wages required in the future to support the industry. So there is a lot of action going on at the national level where new policies are being introduced for rationalizing the labor laws and the factory laws which have been in place for more than 50 years. There is a new code on labor which has been introduced last year, which has been passed by the parliament, but it's not yet implemented, which is probably, it was supposed to be implemented about 4 months back, but it's been pushed out. So we would like to have the panel today, our esteemed panel of Dr. Sriram Srinivasan, Mr. Shashi Kumar Gendam, and Mr. Sajan David to speak about the new labor codes which are going to be implemented, the impact of these on the industry, and how competitive India will be going forward in comparison with our Far Eastern neighbors and of course China. So we have, I think the stage is very clearly set for very exciting times ahead in the next 10 years in the electronic sector and the ESDM sector, and this will be very, very interesting to see going forward. So now I hand over to our ELSINA chairman, Mr. Paresh Vasani, to give his address, and then we will move over to the speakers we have. Thank you very much.
Pareshji, just give me 1 minute to introduce you. Sorry, I think it'll be nice if everybody knows you, but it is my duty, to introduce my president to all the speakers and to the panel. Mr. Vasani is the current president of ELSINA, and he's an entrepreneur par excellence. He has established the PCB power market in India and in the US. And of course, Circuit Systems is also, the other company which, works out of Gandhinagar. Mr. Vasani has got, state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities in Gujarat, India, and in California. His vision is to empower innovation in the electronics industry in India and the US by providing manufacturing support to hobbyists and small, medium, and large enterprises. So I think that there's a lot of R&D and innovation going on under him, which is a great support to the industry. Mr. Vasani is also a mentor to the Center for Innovation, Incubation, and Entrepreneurship of IIM Ahmedabad. He is a chartered member and on board of the Governing Council of TIE Ahmedabad chapter. He was also the president of IPCA earlier. Welcome, sir. Mr. Vasani, over to you, please.
Thank you, Rajuji. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Special welcome to Mr. Aravapalli, Mr. Khan, Mr. Fernando, and also the next session, the moderator and speakers, Mr. Ramchandran, our past president, Dr. Sriram, Sashi, and Mr. Sajan. Again, a warm welcome. This is perhaps one of the most important and interesting topic that is being discussed and presented with very expert and esteemed speakers. So it's going to be a very, very interesting and very enlightening for all of us to do that thing. I would like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about ELSINA. I'm sure most of you are aware of it, but I think it's a good idea to recap and catch up with what's happening at Elsina. So I will not take too much of a time because that will not be appropriate. So Elsina is as old as me, and it was started in 1967. The first industry association supporting electronics hardware when India's electronics industry was still in a very nascent stage. Since then, Elsina has become a forefront on electronics industry, not as government also, but from the industry colleagues. Uh, we have always remained committed to the promotion of electronics manufacturing culture in the country. And we focus on components manufacturing, which is at our core of our activity, EMS, high value added equipment manufacturing, and we also added R&D and other design aspects of the industry to make it as a complete package. Elsina also continues to work towards correlating the common interest of electronics hardware manufacturers and make sure that the growth of manufacturing maintains. Next, please. Rajesh, can you move into the next, please? Thank you. So some of our key activities, what exactly we do. I mean, there is a lot than this, but I think it's good to summarize. So our primary focus is policy advocacy and recommendations to government India to make sure that level playing field and as Rajiv has mentioned, the industry friendly and industry investment friendly policies. We represent industry on various forums, enabling development of supportive ecosystem for electronics manufacturing. We do a lot of business development events such as Source India Strategic Electronics Summit and annual exhibitions to showcase the Indian electronics industry to the world. We also create interactive platform between the buyers and seller so that networking opportunity is also established. Consultancy, we provide consultancy service to our members. We do market research, industry reports, survey and analysis. Of course, due to COVID, this is something is not very happening last 2 years, but there has been a steady and continuous focus on foreign delegations for very bilateral business promotion, I would say. We also organize training and skill development programs, conferences, workshops, emerging business practices, quality self-empowerment programs. We also recognize our industry colleagues from India, which is under Elsina Annual Awards for Excellence in Electronics Manufacturing and Services. This year, the awards are being organized and it should be, depending upon the situation, either September or in December, if you want to organize with our one of the exhibitions that we anticipate should happen in December. We also have a permanent product display facility at our own Elsina house in New Delhi, and where we also have a virtual display on our Elsina website. That's something that we have learned in the last two years. We also do collaborations with various international bodies for creating awareness regarding issues such as sustainable development, intellectual property issues, and eco-design, etc. Next, please. Recently, something I wanted to bring to your notice because Elsina also conducts various surveys, and as you know that one of the topics which is the components for automotive industry, and I'm sure our speakers will touch base upon what's happening with the current situation, supply, demand, pricing, and etc. So we did a survey, and I thought it will be appropriate for us to showcase some of the survey numbers, what's happening and what most of our members feel. Shockingly, I would say that 100% respondents say that they have faced shortage of components and raw material for their manufacturing requirements in last 6 to 12 months. So this is something becoming a very serious issue for us, and we need to address and resolve it within the industry as well as with the government to find out an amicable and effective solution going forward. 70% of our respondents are facing more than 20% increase of price hike in raw material and components. Now, in our cutthroat competition area and industry where the net margins are typically single digit, when such a high increase happens, it affects the industry financials for us. So that is another point that I thought it will be interesting for us to know. And 70% or more respondents have shared that their import is more than 50% of the components that they use, which is also very shocking and surprising, a message to the government and the local industry that there is a room and opportunity for us to make more and more import resistance or domestic friendly component manufacturing ecosystem. Next, please. These are some of the summaries that I would like to say that most of the shortage falls under semiconductor industry, and I think all of us know that there is a global phenomena about the shortage, and everybody's talking about, and not only India but many other countries are affected one way or other. So this is a global problem, and we are part of it. Besides semiconductor, other passive PCBs, electromechanical component, wound components, they all are affected. And it's a very interesting numbers that are there, and I'm sure we will showcase this with the government and then try to work around with them. Next, please. I'm not going to take too much of a time because we have expert panel on this, but I think it's equally important from the LCNA standpoint of view that I discuss it out very quickly. I get always the less time, Rajuji, and I have to cover so many things. So I'm really speaking on a jet speed. So please pardon me if I'm kind of a little bit fast, but I'm trying to cover as much as possible. So facing challenges on the shortage of components are on availability and price, and lead time has gone as high as 50 to 60 weeks, which is phenomenal compared to what it used to be 4 to 8 weeks. Prices are on a everyday increase, I would say. The validity of quotations are becoming very, very short, and most of us have to react very quickly and fast, which is a big challenge for all of us. This amounts to problem in working capital challenge because the entire payment cycle and everything is going haywire. We are unable to ship because of the shortage of one or two components or in entire BOM, and then we are stuck with a lot of inventory, and that is affecting our working capital problem big time. Again, the logistic and the cost of import is also becoming a big issue. There was somebody sharing with me that the container pricing are as high as $10,000, $15,000, which is something that completely unheard of, and it's very difficult to absorb those kind of pricing in our cost. Wound industry is in big crisis. Whatever little indigenous suppliers are supplying, they are doing so on their own terms. More than 20% price increase because of the copper price, the metal price are increasing. So in short, it is becoming a big out of control situation, I would say. And obviously, semiconductor manufacturing till today, as I speak, to the best of my knowledge, is not happening in India. And it's a big issue that we have to deal with. Next, please. In spite of all these challenges that we are facing recently, I must also acknowledge that government is working very closely with LCNI and other industry bodies to make sure that there are incentives to produce electronics goods and components as much as possible in India, especially for entire ESDM industry. So there are certain schemes, I'm sure you are all aware of it. I'm not going to touch base on this thing, but for example, the PLI scheme, which has been introduced recently and has caught a lot of attention on the members, a lot of companies are applying in various verticals, and it is becoming a talk of the town almost for all members and industry bodies. And there is a big scope and opportunity that government has given. Hopefully all these things will solve, if not 100%, but significantly our current problems that we are facing in every verticals. So there are many things that we do. Next, please. Many things that we do on social media. LCNA also recognized and realized that when physical interactions are becoming difficult because of the situation, we also want to make sure that we are in touch with our members and colleagues all over the world using social media platforms. So we have been very active on these platforms, and I request and encourage every one of you to follow us and then update yourself with the things that and many posts that we put it on such media. Next, please. We also have, I mean, since we are part of the high-tech industry group, and we want to make sure, that we are at par with our members. So we have launched a mobile app on both Google Android as well as iOS platform. And it is becoming quite useful for most of the members. And we are adding new features as and when it's possible and as and when we get the feedback. So again, another tool to be in touch with us. Next, please. This is something also very important and interesting that Elsina is doing it. Even though the component shortage and everything has just recently started, that has taken eyes or attention of everyone. But we also recognize that the supply chain, the gap that we have in our ecosystem is something that we need to address. And we have been talking to government since almost 2 to 3 years. And after a lot of discussions and deliberations, we proposed what we call as an Indian electronics industry portal for components, where we become a marketplace and information sharing platform for entire electronics industry in India, where the component availability, the policy, mix and match of buyers and seller, the data regarding imports and export and all these things are going to be available under one platform, which hopefully will have the blessings of Government of India, Ministry of Information Technology. And then we are working on it, and hopefully this year we are planning to launch our first version of portal to the industry and its members. Next, please. This is something that we are doing a lot of activities and programs for our members, and this is a list of some of the programs that we have started from April 2021 because from our financial year. So we have already organized webinar on electronic printable electronics. We have Western region meet on June. India-Taiwan Electronics Cooperation meet just recently concluded, a huge success. Next, please. I think this is the Elsina Southern Region webinar, which is happening today. Then the next one is on webinar and B2B meetings for India Taiwan Electronics meets, which is a continuation of our earlier program. Then we are going to have an Elsina Northern Region meet, Elsina Awards, which is right now slated for September. We hope that we continue with this schedule based on the COVID situation. Then the Institute for Information Technology, Taiwan webinar, electrical vehicle. We touch base of various aspects and technology that are being developed and introduced on a global scale, and especially in India. So we try to make sure, that we are at par with those things. Then the CEO forum and other things. So a lot of activities and programs that we do at Elsina to cover various aspects of our members and make sure, that we give something to our members from as much as possible. Okay, I think thank you very much for this presentation that you listened to from me. There is also another thing that I would like to bring to your notice. It's kind of a good news. Elsina every year publishes a directory, even though it is called a directory, but it is much more than a directory. It has a very comprehensive information about policies, the data, and a lot of insights of the industry. So we have recently made it completed, and we are going to publish, and we wanted to show you some of the glimpse of what exactly the directory looks like. Yogesh, you want to talk about it? Because, since you have been working on it, maybe you can just quickly share the information, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm just sharing some slides, which are the screenshot from the directory, which is now published. We have the online version is available, and next week we will be going to publish the hard copy and circulate it among members and the industry. So this is the cover page, and then we have some details about the market and data. Then we have policy section which is covering all the policy details about India. Then we have a special article on additive manufacturing. It lists all the members of Alcina, their details, so you can completely find out which are the company and what are they making. And similarly, we have a section on non-members. So it's a complete, we have about 1,500 companies listed in our directory, apart from the industry data. That's all for the directory. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Yogesh. Over to Rajuji, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I think, and thank you for going through this presentation very fast, because it does talk about Alcina a lot and what we are doing. So very grateful for that. The directory is of course something very special to us, and this is the 34th edition. So this has been going on for quite some time, and we do, and we update and we publish the directory every year. I think it has been a very successful thing, and thank you very much for for releasing it now, because we are doing everything online. Earlier we used to do it in one of the big programs, but of course that is not possible now. So we will quickly move on to our next session, which is on the opportunities for sourcing in automotive electronics. It is my privilege to introduce the speakers one by one as they come on stage, and they will be speaking to us. So I will begin with Mr. Srinivas Arvapalli, the founder and CEO of Blue Binaries Engineering Solutions Private Limited. Welcome, Mr. Arvapalli, and thank you for joining us here. It is it's really a privilege to have you here. You are a very accomplished professional and a technocrat, which we can see, sir, from your background and from your long stint in the industry. Of course, in India with Mahindra and Mahindra, which is one of the biggest names, as their senior vice president, and you were also looking after the Mahindra Graphic Research and Design company, which is in Turin, Italy. Mr. Arvapalli has got education overseas. He's an automotive electronics degree from the Coventry University in UK, and 33 years of diverse experience in the industry. Especially, I think, sir, you have been there as the chairman of in SIAM of the hybrid and electrical vehicle initiatives, which is something really exceptional, I must say. And you've also been an advisor to NATRIP, which is the National Automotive Testing and R&D Infrastructure Project, as well as TIFAC, which is the Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council. In addition, Mr. Srinivas has got 15 patents and 9 publications under his belt, and plus he has received various accolades and awards. I will leave the rest for all of you to please read on the screen, and I will hand over now to Mr. Srinivas. I do understand that, sir, you have a slightly longer presentation, and we will be looking forward to hear to that. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you. Over to you, Mr. Arvapalli.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you, Mr. Man. So I will start sharing my screen, and please let me know if it is visible. Just a moment. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can see the screen.
Right. You can see the screen now with my bit of notes and the slide that is coming up, or you can see only one slide.
No, we can see both. We can see your notes as well as the screen with a nice sports car on it. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just a moment. Huh? Fair enough. I'll just switch off the notes, all that stuff, and once. Yeah. So, good afternoon to all of you, and thank you very much for this opportunity. And this is the first time I'm speaking to Alcina, and once again, thanks to all of you to give me this opportunity. I tried to put up some slides, but then last night I spoke to Rakesh and requested him maybe 20-25 minutes, but we tried to put this everything into a kind of a 15-minute stuff. I'm sorry if I'm rushing up some slides here and there. I'll try to catch up in a manner that you also get a glimpse of what exactly I am trying to say. In case there is any disturbance from my background, please do let me know, Sam, because I am joining from my home. To start with, let me explain to you what are the major mega trends that are happening in the automotive space. Is there any background noise so that I'll shift my place? You're okay.
Okay, sir.
No, it's very clear. It's very, very clear. Sir, it's very clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, the mega trends in the automotive industry are CASE, C-A-S-E, CASE. What is CASE? Most of you must be knowing because all of you are from in the industry, you're all veterans. In the automotive space, the CASE is a big buzzword these days. CASE is connected, ADAS and autonomous. Obviously, it is autonomous mainly, shared and electrification. So the whole automotive world is revolving in these four jargons in the area of electronics and technology space. Now, I'll try to connect my talk and presentation with regards to the opportunities in electronics for our opportunities for semiconductors in this four mega trends, and just try to give you what are these four technologies, give you a kind of a glimpse. To start with, connected. Out of the four, let me explain you about little bit of connected. Let me explain you here the way the trends that are happening, which are again leading to the trends in the automotive space. The most important trend that in the connectivity, that is bandwidth, expansion of bandwidth. You all know that it was previously 2G, then we moved to 3G, then we moved to 4G, and then we are on to 5G, coming on to 5G. It was taking about 10 hours to download approximately 180 MB. Then same in the time of 2G, then the same data it came down to 12 minutes, then 2 minutes. Now on a click of a button, you get about say 180 MB, blah blah, whatever it is. Now, so this is one thing, the increasing bandwidth, one enabler. Same the case with the data price. The way the data prices have come down, typically, if you look at a price of a spread around 3 months back, the way it used to be, and now it is almost like by the time we come to 2018, it is 3 rupees or 1 rupee a GB kind of stuff where we are now. Same way, the overall social media, the other networks that are coming up is again known to you. I am not talking anything rocket science. This is another trend which has caught up so well from internet, Facebook or Twitter or WhatsApp, so many social media companies coming up and then taking the space in the area of connectivity. Then I'm trying to do the presentation more through a pictorial rather than talking, so that the understanding is easy. So the digital money is again known to all of you, and today you look at the way the Paytm is being used, the locations where this is being used. It is almost like everywhere on the roadside, and the currency is almost like getting vanished from the Indian economy. Not only Paytm now, you have Google Pay, you have more mobile pay, there are so many different. So these technology disruptions, whether it is in the digital payments, whether it is in the social network, whether it is in the connectivity speed, whether it is in the other aspects, is that disruption that is happening in the technologies or enabler technologies in the area of connectivity. Automotive is also not an exception. Entire disruption is also happening into automotive space also. So what exactly is happening in the automotive space? For example, if you take Mahindra XUV 500, this is how the connectivity and digital technology has expanded. Although this is an existing vehicle, but I picked up the old slide of Mahindra with the permission, and this is how the screen looks like. These 9 shots are screenshots And this is how typically the infotainment or the audio system works on the vehicle. It will give you a lot of vehicle related information, door open or seatbelt warning, air pressure monitoring, reverse parking, a lot of multimedia, including videos and audios. It will also give you a lot of voice recognition enabled features. So this is how the tech connectivity and the technology has changed. Again, known to you, this is what is happening on Scorpio. So all this is again on account of the connectivity quite a lot, on account of the overall technology disruption that has happened. Over and above the multimedia, over and above the navigation, over and above the vehicle health systems, on the modern cars, you also have a lot of apps, whether it is Ghana.com, a lot of information about cricket or the current news and hashtags, Book My Show, Zomato, blah, blah. And car itself is working like a gateway, payment gateway. And then you also have a lot of statistics involved around the scope, around your drive pattern. For example, if you see the left side bottom, I'll just, I'll take a pointer. So this is something about the overall your drive statistics, how you have been driving. The 3 leaves is like, you got a score out of 5, 3 like this. And then the way you are, the accelerations, the way you are idling, how the gear selection has been used, and you got a score of 83 like this. Some of the information that is available. And also the emergency roadside assistance, you can see here, the moment you press the button, automatically the call goes to numbers, including police and all. So a lot of connectivity and connectivity features. Yes, it's a fantastic disruption that is happening in terms of connectivity. As I repeat, this is the topic we are taking. No, you need that. Hello? Okay, so these are the connectivity functions and features. For example, it is connecting to your home. It is providing you assistance, traffic assistance, parking assistance, locational assistance, navigational assistance, a lot of entertainment, blah, blah. With this increasing computations and connections, more of a relevance to adopt even big data and leverage towards IoT. And this is what is happening now. How it is happening? These are the opportunities for your the components or semiconductors, and a lot of the TCUs, that is telematics connected units, or telematics unit, TCU we call it as, like electronic control unit ECU, it's called TCU. Then quite a lot of hardware here. So there is a fantastic opportunity for a lot of electronic components. And in fact, in the previous session, we heard about shortages and all. Today, the industry is reeling under pressure about the shortages of the components of all these many of these components. Nevertheless, all I want to tell you is the connected space has got a terrific opportunity in the area of connected devices, especially hardware, for components and hardware. And this is going to come on, including two-wheelers, and it has already started coming in some of the two-wheelers. Therefore, it's a huge demand that is going to catch up in India. Now coming to ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist System, ADAS and autonomous. This is another technology, one of the most important mega trend that is coming up. And what you can do with ADAS, these are the things that you can do: adaptive cruise control, FCW, front collision warning, LDW, lane departure warning. Then you can also do parking assistance, lane change warning, lots of things, and pedestrian detections in the night. All these things can be done through advanced driver assistance systems. So the ADAS also has got a lot of other features, but I just listed down what can come to India. Then look at how the things, why ADAS is needed. ADAS is needed because of this kind of accident scenarios, drowsiness, aggressive driving, overspeeding, mobile phone distractions while driving, co-passenger distractions while driving, and drunken driving. So these are the major root causes of the accidents. And this is the situation in India, how accidents do happen because of indiscipline on the road, because of overloading, because of so many irregular practices. But look, you can also have a look at the cause of accident scenario in this slide, where the traffic is so indisciplined, no signaling before turning, overloaded vehicles causing cattle coming on the road, and signal violations, improper overtaking. So, therefore, with all these conditions, ADAS is more relevant for India, and we can bring these four technologies importantly, which are already coming in some of the vehicles. That is forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking. The second one here, if you are not alert and if there is a vehicle in front of you, automatically the vehicle senses it at a particular distance and then it applies a brake called automatic emergency braking. Same the case with forward collision warning. First, it will give you a warning. Second, it automatically applies a braking and without your intervention. Same the case here. Lane keep assistance or lane change warning, blind spot detections. Most of the times when you are going on the vehicle, you don't really able to see some of the vehicles on your left or right in some of the dark zones. So this is the technology which will help you, to quickly look at if there is any vehicle on your left or right in the dark zones. So these are the technologies that are going to help you in India, and ADAS is going to come. It is already coming, as I mentioned to you, a couple of vehicles is already mentioned, Glosser, MG Hector, and Mahindra XUV 700, which will be launched 2 months from now. All that they are going to be equipped. Now, these ADAS and autonomous technologies need a lot of sensors, radars, lidars, cameras, and again, it's a huge opportunity for components. And you can see the long range radars or short range radars in the picture, where you have a lot of semiconductor and there's a lot of room for components. Then at the same time, things like cameras, how they work. So if you look at this picture, all these are sensors: radar sensor, image sensor, lidar, and one more image sensor here. All these light green are lidars, blue or radars. So one car will be equipped with so many lidars and radars. That is how the overall electronics is going to increase. The amount of deployment of electronics is going to be multifold. Now, because of that, I touched upon connected and ADAS. Because of that explanation, I see that there is a terrific opportunity for semiconductors and components. Now coming to shared and electrification, the other two parts. I'm clubbing these two because there is quite a lot that is happening between these two now. First, I'll try to explain to you what exactly meant by shared. Shared, Ola, Uber, that is also shared mobility. But I thought for this audience today, I will give you a kind of a feel what exactly is the shared mobility in two-wheeler space. In two-wheelers, it's most emerging concept in ride sharing. And there are many startups that are working. It's more than $1 billion market potential in India. So all VCs, the venture capital companies are looking at like this only, these companies only. Now, the shared mobility in two-wheeler is in almost like 4 parts. Bike as a taxi means there will be a bike with a driver. He will come and pick you and then drop you. This also is known to most of you. But I just wanted to remind you that this is one segment catching up. Then the second topic is bike rental. That means you take the bike somewhere and pick it up somewhere and drop it somewhere through an app. You just locate one bike, go and then take it, just pay online, use it. After using, again pay online, and then drop it anywhere, wherever you like. This is bike rental, pick and drop anywhere. Then this other part is bike rental at a specific location. You have to drop, is called docking station. And you have to pick it up from a specific location and drop at specific location. The fourth one is there is another bike rental which is meant for university campuses, IT campuses, or hospitals and some of the big universities, all that, and maybe even shopping malls here and there. In these places, you have small bikes for which the speed is under 25 kmph. Just pick it up, use it, and drop anywhere, but that pay per kilometer or per hour basis. So like this, a shared mobility is coming up. As I mentioned, the first one is bike as a taxi. There's a company called Rapido, and there is a Uber Moto. Uber also got into this. just take the call somebody, he will pick you and he will drop you. It's more meant for last mile connectivity, very affordable, mass affordable, best suited for the delivery guys and can ride during the even PRs. Now, this is what Rapido is company about, founded in 2016. I will not take time on this, but it is doing about 2.5 million rides a day. Then bike rental, pick and drop anywhere, is called Bounce, a company in Bangalore. You just rental is 30 rupees an hour, and again suited for any purpose, including delivery executives. So this is going to be again one of the major. But for Corona, this was catching up quite heavily in cities like Bangalore, Jaipur, Chennai, all that. But after Corona, there is some setback. They are trying to get back with so many changes in their model. But this is also going to be one interesting model. Then I told you about the docking station, bike rental and pick up and drop any specific locations. So this is a company called Vogo, and they have stations near, they have their parking bases near metro stations. They have their parking bases near bus stations. You just go there after you get down from your metro, pick the bike and then use it, and then again go to another metro or bring it back in the evening from your IT company or from your company, whatever it is, and again park it in metro station, and they charge only 3.5 rupees a kilometer. And this is something like, docking station related shared mobility. This is also catching up. And I told you about the small vehicle under 25 kmph, more of a bicycle category, is a company called Yulu. It's a massive company now. A lot of vehicles have been deployed in various places, like as I told you, IT parks, universities, hospitals, and big complexes, blah blah. So that is what shared mobility all about. And I also talked about little bit about electrification trend. And there are many topics happening through Elsina about electrification. I saw the calendar presented by him, the previous speaker, the president. And definitely a lot of data must be known to you. But the way the battery prices are coming down, it was as high as about $1,000 a kilowatt hour. $1,000 a kilowatt hour in 2010, somewhere here, came down. Now it is expecting to be around 180. In fact, as of today, it is going to come down further, is what I can tell you. It can be anywhere around $150 an hour, a kilowatt hour. So this is how it is. The battery prices coming down is the boom for the electrification. And this graph indicates from 2020 onwards, this is unit in millions, how the electric vehicle is going to increase. By 2030, it is going to be as high as about 18 millions going forward. So the CAGR is going to be about 44%. And with the FAME 2 incentives, which has been increased again with the 10,000 crores lump sum money kept, but per vehicle, the overall incentive per vehicle has been increased with that incentive, and the tax incentives and tax rebates that are coming from state governments, and things like parking spaces being designated exclusively for electric, etc., is going to take off, and it is more or less at a tipping point in terms of the electrification. And this is what the electrification is going to, in terms of the gigawatts, the storage capability, the storage capabilities. This is what the graph is showing. It's not the number of vehicles. Number of vehicles are shown here in millions. And I just talk about two-wheeler. It is more relevant because in India, two-wheeler and three-wheeler, these are the two things which are getting electrified. In fact, three-wheeler is catching up quite fast. In the interest of time, I did not put up slides. Three-wheeler is the most relevant market in India for electrification because they cover almost 150 to 200 kilometers a day, morning 8 o'clock to night 8 o'clock. And in between, if he needs another charge, either through swapping or no swapping, there's a terrific demand for three-wheeler. At the same time, two-wheeler also, a lot of companies are already there. Companies like Ampere, Okinawa, Hero Electric, Ather 22. These are a lot of established players and new entrants in the space of electric two-wheeler. And established startups, and over and above this, we also have normal established players like Honda, Bajaj, Hero Motor, Hero, everybody is coming into the electrical space, electric vehicle space. Therefore, this is another trend catching up quite fast. So I talked about shared mobility in two-wheeler. I talked about little bit of electrification. I only gave you a kind of a glimpse, honestly speaking, because otherwise it would have been a very big presentation. If I look at the summary and also I club the delivery segment. The delivery segment means, as you all know, today most of the delivery is happening as a home delivery by all these delivery boys, including whether it is Amazon or Flipkart or Pizza Hut or Uber Eats, Zomato, Swiggy, or anything else, including Reliance Jio, the Grofers and Big Basket, so on and so forth. This is a delivery market. Huge potential for the delivery market in terms of electrical vehicle or electric scooter, and this is the space for shared mobility, bike as a taxi, bike pick and drop anywhere, bike rental and docking station. Then leaving all those two, only personal segment for your personal use, for my personal use, there are quite a lot of electric two-wheeler requirement in India for personal use, that is for personal segment, plus campus requirements, technology parks, university research parks, blah, blah. All this four put together, if I really look at what would be the requirement of potential market size for electric two-wheeler, it could be 5 million or 10 million, I really not able to guess. The current two-wheeler market in India is about 22 to 23 millions of ICE, means ICE, internal combustion engine. But out of this 22 to 23 million, by 2025, means 3 years from now, we are expecting the market to be converted to almost like 25%. 25% of 22 million is also about 5 to 5.2, 5.3 millions. That's how the two-wheeler market in terms of EV is happening. Now, coming to opportunities, I'm trying to conclude as because of the time. These are the opportunities. The battery pack, which has got a lot of electronics through BMS, battery management system, which is shown in the bottom here. And DC-DC converters, chargers, then traction motors and motor controller. Then there are some thermal components, although they are mechanical. So motor control, more of power electronics. So these are the opportunities for the components in the space of electric vehicle and shared mobility. In shared mobility, you also have a telematics, and in telematics, which I have covered in the very beginning of the session as a connectivity topic. There again, you need a telematics controller or a telematics control unit, for which again electronics are required. So if you really look at the way the automotive industry is changing, and especially in this space of two-wheeler in India, majority of it is getting converted into electronics, and the opportunities are quite huge, and huge volumes of new electric bikes and three-wheelers are going to push the demand for electronic components. Then for electrification, you need quite a lot of other semiconductors and PCBs and so on and so forth in the associated business. And this is what is going to push the whole thing. And this is my conclusion. Just not technology and in auto space alone, it is also a way of making innovative solutions in line with the technology disruptions, which I spoke in the beginning, leading to a massive opportunity of electronic components and related businesses. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. I try to make it as short as possible, but I don't know if I overshoot my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivas. I think that was, there was a lot of information and knowledge there. And I do wish that we had more time. We are definitely running late, but I think we will manage. So we have, but that was an excellent presentation. And I think this concept of case is very, very interesting. And I think it gives us a lot of food for thought and to share a lot of information with our members and with the industry, because we all know that EVs is a huge opportunity. And I think this is really excellent. And I'm sure that all the other speakers and all the participants would agree with me. I will quickly move on to Mr. Barkatullah Khan, who is our next speaker. And of course, followed by Mr. Claudius Fernando. Mr. Khan, leads the Visteon Asia manufacturing and supply chain operations. He's been there with the company, I think, for almost 18, 19 years now. He's been, and he's responsible for driving the operational excellence across Visteon's facilities in India, Thailand, Japan, and the JV that they have in Indonesia and Vietnam. He has extensive experience in developing a globally competitive manufacturing footprint driven by technology, lean manufacturing, etc. I will leave the rest of you to please read it from the screen. And we are really lucky to have Mr. Khan with us in this webinar. So over to you, Mr. Khan, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Raju Goyal, for the introduction. So I will not waste much time. So I think I have a presentation which I have shared to Mr. Rajesh. So yeah, I have seen. So I hope everybody is able to see the screen. So so once again,
Yes.
I would like to kind of thank Mr. Raju. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Paresh Vasani and Mr. Rajiv and Delsina for organizing this webinar. So I am really happy to share the dais with Mr. Srinivas Arvapalli, whom we have been associated from the Mahindra days. And in fact, I was happy to see his slides on the XUV 500, where Visteon was the manufacturer of the infotainment system. And happy that he brought up that for displaying the technology which was used in the infotainment. It was such a wonderful vehicle and a wonderful infotainment system. And also with Mr. Claudius Fernando from Uri Automotive. So without wasting much time, I'll directly go into the topic for the opportunities for sourcing in automotive electronics. Just a warning before I start. So my slides are almost the same as what Mr. Srinivas had presented, because we both come from the same automotive industry, and I would be covering a similar kind of data and slides. So apologies for that. And kind of it's like seeing the same movie second time. It's a kind of remade movie. So sorry about that. Next slide, please. So I will kind of like to kind of first explain the automotive electronics growth, how this industry has evolved over the years, and the kind of opportunities upcoming in this sector. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's a bit of a lag in my system, so apologies for that. So we all know the digital era has been really overwhelming and has changed the way we have been transacting and doing business all these years, and had an impact in all the areas, be it communication, security, transaction, etc. And everything is moving towards digital, as Mr. Srinivas had shown on the previous slide, be it Paytm or the digital money. So so all this are kind of completely transitioned from what we used to be seeing a decade ago. Next slide, please. And not only that, we also are seeing a huge transformation in the communication field. So this digital era has empowered everyone with fast access to information, and everything is on your palm at the flash of a second. And this helps in informed decision making. For an automotive customer, this means that he expects the communication or the information is available for him on the go. And hence a vehicle today is seen as an extension of his mobile device, which will seamlessly connect to the host of services from various cloud services. So that is how a customer is kind of expecting from the vehicle. So it is no more a kind of a transportation tool to go from one place to other, but it also is kind of an extension of his mobile device. Next slide, please. So what you see on the screen is the cockpit, passenger car cockpit in the Mercedes-Benz, and on the right-hand side, what you see is the latest version. But maybe the right-hand side photo is still not the latest. So the latest one comes in with a large display with focus on driver information, as I said, the cyber safety, safety of the passengers, ADAS, infotainment, and a host of connected services. So the auto industry is quickly adopting larger displays today with touch capability similar to the consumer electronics like the mobile phone. So all these dials, knobs, buttons are fading into history. As mass market vehicles start to offer say 12-inch or larger displays, premium and luxury OEMs are looking to differentiate their cockpits with more advanced display solutions. So what is happening is the display itself is becoming a commodity. So the display manufacturing is one potential opportunity which we today are predominantly dependent on China. All our displays, be it say a 3.5-inch display or a 12-inch display, everything comes out of China, and you have a huge market for displays, and it's going to be kind of exploding, and your entire cockpit is going to be a one big screen which gives you a kind of a host of displays for the consumer. So the display market is kind of expanding. Next slide, please. So what is happening now as a result? What we see is a convergence of consumer electronics and auto electronics, software technologies, and cyber security industries, wherein auto companies are kind of collaborating with. So along with the shift to larger displays, we are also quickly seeing an adaptation to the use of over-the-air software updates and Android-based infotainment systems for the next generation cockpits. So offering the consumers a wide choice of connected services along with over-the-air software updates has become one of the critical requirements for new vehicles. So we see a kind of a merger of all these industries. So it is no more only a consumer electronics kind of a show what you generally have, where you kind of have a host of all the industries participating in that, and automotive is definitely one of the prime kind of factor in those consumer electronics exhibitions today. Next slide, please. So as a result, as Mr. Srinivas had said in his earlier presentation, so what we see is a connected car, electrification happening so very fast, shared mobility, which we already discussed, and safety is becoming one of the prime importance. So today your vehicle, at whatever speeds you drive, safety is becoming one of the prime important factor for everybody to consider before buying a vehicle. And next slide, please. So with all this kind of connectivity and features and displays, what is happening? So it is becoming more and more complex. The vehicle is becoming more and more complex. And today, high-end cars, like say the BMW 7 Series and all those things, with advanced technologies like say the ADAS, it contains about 150 ECUs or more than that. Okay, while even pickup trucks like the Ford 150s in the US contains about 150 million lines of code, software codes. So even today in India, even low kind of end vehicles are quickly approaching 100 ECUs and 100 million lines of code, as more features that were once considered luxury options, such as the say adaptive cruise controls or automatic emergency braking, are becoming standard features even in smaller vehicles. So that is how customers are kind of demanding today. So as a result, what is happening is, can we go to the next slide, please? So what is happening is packaging really becomes difficult, because when you want to add so much feature content in your infotainment or in your vehicles, the packaging really becomes difficult. So what is happening is now your chipsets are shrinking so significantly that every year you see that the previous version of chipsets become redundant. Okay, so not only that the chipsets are shrinking, but also the volumes required are significantly increasing. Okay, so even today, India, even though we are making around 3.5 million vehicles, but the content of electronics, as you see on the right hand side of this chart, it has significantly gone up. Okay, so it was somewhere around 10% a decade ago. Now it's about 35%, and we expect it to go to 50% of the total cost by 2030. So that is the kind of growth we see in this semiconductor market, and thus the automotive electronics. Next slide, please. So yeah, just a snapshot on the various electronics controls and interfaces we see in the vehicle today, and each module is a development opportunity. Okay, as most of these have become standard features in the vehicle today. Next slide, please. And not only that, today, as you see, the ECUs are all distributed. Okay, so we have individual ECUs which are there in vehicles, as I said, about 100 ECUs or 150 ECUs. So what is happening is, because of this packaging issue, now there is a consolidation happening of these ECUs. Okay, you have one ECU for ADAS, one ECU for powertrain, one ECU for the cockpit module. So these are kind of, there is a lot of consolidation happening. By way of consolidation, what happens is you kind of reduce the package size in the PCB, and hence you kind of save space in the vehicle, thus reduce the weight of the vehicle. So all this consolidation happens in the electronics industry. Next slide, please. So with this, I would go into how does it kind of affect our industry, and what are some of the key drivers for this change and the focus area for opportunity. So let's go to the next slide. So vehicle powertrain is one of the other area which is going through a quantum change, driven by the need to address impending ever more stringent CO2 compliance and criteria of emission regulations, while sustaining unprecedented rates of progress with development of automation. okay, and infotainment, and meeting the customer expectations regarding performance, comfort, and utility. So all this are kind of now becoming more and more electronics, because if you kind of move from to a stringent CO2 emissions, so kind of you work towards more controls in the powertrain management controls. When you move to electric vehicles, you kind of work on battery management solutions. You kind of have more electronics towards managing these batteries. How do you manage the life of the batteries and powering up of these batteries? All this becomes very important and brings up a lot of electronics into the vehicle. Next slide, please. Okay, so the coming years will see even greater change, okay, as more and more auto manufacturers commit to phasing out their internal combustion engines, powered vehicles, to meet global climate change targets, okay, by replacing them with the electric vehicles. So that will eventually happen and also be capable of autonomous operations. So today what we see is on the box, what I show on the left hand side, you have a connected driver where the driver is connected to a host of services through his infotainment, and tomorrow the vehicle itself gets connected automatically. So those are already available today. So what is going to happen in future? By future, I don't mean a decade after, but maybe in a couple of years now. So we already have started seeing vehicles to come with cars with automated functions, and we all know about Tesla, who has kind of pioneered in making this autonomous car. So this is not a kind of a dream anymore. So it has already become a reality, and this is coming very fast. Next slide, please. So today the cockpit, as I said, so this is a summary of what I said. So the cockpit is becoming more digital, okay, so with large curved displays. So displays is becoming one of the very important commodity for the automotive electronics, okay. And then the connectivity, access to the cloud data and services, hybrid cloud and edge computing becomes important. And as I said, automated. So once you go talk about automated, safety becomes very important. So you need to have active safety features and self-driving controls which are required under specific conditions. And we are also talking about kind of the vehicle doing the machine learning based solutions, and also voice enabled solutions which are required for the advanced safety purposes. Next slide, please. Again, this is one of the slides which similar to what Mr. Srinivas had showed. So these are various types of sensors which are available in the vehicles today, ranging from LiDARs, cameras, and radars for various types of functionality in the vehicles. Okay, so next slide, please. So having said that, what we see is we see a very big kind of disruptions happening post this pandemic because of this huge semiconductor shortage. So this has not only underscored not only the fragility of our automotive supply chain, but it has placed an intense spotlight on the automotive industries, on the dozen of concealed computers embedded throughout the vehicles today. So what has happened is the shift to working from home has created a big surge in demand for electronics. So wherein these semiconductors players have not been able to increase their capacities to the levels what the market has demanded. And not only that, these kind of semiconductor industries require a huge investments and specialized equipment, which is readily not happening. And what has also happened is the automotive industry, which has been historically be working on the flexible and just-in-time technology supply chain models, has really been kind of caught off guard because of this pandemic. So what has really happened is we are seeing a huge drop in vehicle production, as you can see on the chart on the right hand side. So the industry is expecting around kind of 4 million kind of drop in sales of vehicles, or millions of vehicles which have been lost because of the semiconductor shortage. So that is really today, India for a particular in matter, we are kind of struggling really to get components out of the China and Southeast Asia market. So this is what I kind of cover in my next slide. So as Mr. Vasani had said, we really do not have an ecosystem for automotive electronics. So really kind of government should look at promoting the ecosystem for semiconductor manufacturers, and as I said, particularly display manufacturing. So as I said, display is going to be a big commodity for automotive, and really if these players can kind of set up shop in India, it would be a wonderful opportunity for the automotive electronics. And not only that, what is happening is the import duties for India for kind of these displays are enormously higher. So what makes this is we become very unfavorable in India to really make exports out of India for auto electronics. So I think that is one of the other kind of items which we need to kind of keep in mind when these import duties are kind of enhanced further. We really becomes kind of uncompetitive. So that's when we kind of really need to see how this automotive ecosystem can be brought in with these semiconductor manufacturers and display manufacturing inside India. So that would really be helpful and will really kind of open a big opportunity for the auto electronics to flourish in India. So this is my last slide, and I really take this opportunity to thank Helsina again for this opportunity. Thank you. Any questions from the team?
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I am sure there may be some questions. We will try to keep maybe 5 minutes after the talk of Mr. Fernando. So we'll be grateful if you can kindly stay on
no problem. No problem.
to the end of the session. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure there are questions because there are issues which you have raised with respect to automotive electronics in particular. Because I think among all the industries, manufacturing or engineering manufacturing industries, India is possibly one of the strongest, in manufacture of automobiles. But automotive electronics, I think we have a lot of catching up to do, and we all know that we don't have any components in the country. So I think that, and plus of course semiconductors, which we are now facing so many issues. So with a big thanks to you, Mr. Khan, I think that was really excellent. And there was some overlap with the talk of Mr. Srinivas, but not much. So I think there was a lot of new information there for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now move on to Mr. Claudius Fernando, who is Director of Woori Automotive India. Welcome, sir, to this to this forum, and we look forward to your speech. Mr. Fernando is the Director of Woori Automotive, which is a Korean company and one of the leaders in automotive electronics and products. I saw some of them are very interesting, and they control the air conditioning and the heating, etc. in the vehicle. Mr. Fernando has got 18 plus years of experience in the automotive industry and has been responsible for plant operations, including the bottom line. He's been supporting all the major OEMs in India, such as Hyundai, Mahindra, Tata, Volkswagen, and Maruti. And now, of course, he's with Woori Automotives. So over to you, sir, and looking forward to your talk. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir. Mr. Fernando, can you hear us? Hello?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rajesh, can you?
Sorry, Mr. Fernando, I lost connection, please.
Mr. Raju, can you hear me? Mr. Raju Goel.
Please continue. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Very much. Please continue.
Okay, a very happy afternoon to all the dignitaries assembled here and also to the participants who have logged in. Thank you for your valuable time. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just that the tunnel is a bit longer. As explained, I'm Claudius Fernando, representing Woori India, here to talk about the opportunities for sourcing in automotive electronics. My talk will be more in terms of the micro level. We all know electronics industry is among the largest and the fastest growing manufacturing industry in the world. Approximately around 2 trillion is the volume. And to put things in the proper perspective, electronics in the automotive segment is about 5%. Safety comes first in the automotive industries. Therefore, the components used in the automotive industry need to go through stringent testing methods before being used in the vehicle. The OEMs, hold on, Rajesh. The OEMs are extremely strict with regard to the quality and the reliability of the components. Next. Woori is a $480 million company headquartered in Korea with manufacturing facilities in China, Thailand, Slovakia, Mexico, and here in Chennai, India. Next. Next. Yeah, these are some of the customers to whom we support to, predominantly Hanon, Duon, Value, etc. Next. And some of the products that we make next are the heater control panels, the actuator motors, the field coils, various sensors, and also components which go into the complete HVAC system. Next. We also make some of the components which go into the well talked about the EV industry. Even though here in India we still have not started, but our headquarters in Korea are making them. Next. Woori in India is around 17 years old. We are based out of Chennai, and we are a air conditioning component manufacturing company, and we crossed almost 200 crores in the financial year 2020. And we support all the OEMs through tier 1 such as Hanon, Duon, Mali, Sandan, and Subros, and the OEMs such as Hyundai, Mahindras, the Tatas, Marutis, and VW. Next, please. And as I explained, these are some of the products as well as the customer-wise explanation in terms of our sales turnover in the year 2020. Next. And here in India, we make predominantly the heater control panels, both the semi-automatic control panels, which are called manual, and also the fully automatic temperature controllers. In addition to that, we also make the HVAC actuators. Next. Now let's see what are the opportunities for the electronic components here in India. There are a lot of challenges for the manufacturing of electronic components in India, ranging from not having patents, high investment costs, low volume requirements, etc., etc. But I'm not going to talk about all of them right now. Today, let's explore the opportunities available for the electronic component industry here in India. As we all know, there's a lot of noise about Make in India, and it's extremely a good concept. However, in reality, at least the auto industry, we are a long way off. As we support the automotive industry today, I will restrict myself to talk only about our industry and more specifically about the products that we make. Almost all successful vehicle manufacturers in India, except the Tatas and the Mahindras, are MNCs. These MNCs, when they set up their bases here, they bring their vendors also to India. These vendors, when they come into India, they bring their own component manufacturers. Either they bring them and set them up here, or they import it from there, predominantly to get the tried and tested components from the same manufacturers earlier. So starting from design to materials to equipment, everything is imported, and in effect, only manpower is Indian. When the design happens out of India, even if there are Indian component manufacturers who are very good, logically speaking, they do not get an opportunity to be associated in the initial product. In today's scenario, if you relate the Indian economic scenario with the electronic component industry here in India, we can relate it to a football team. The Indian component makers will never be in the main team. They can be in the team only as a substitute, simply because the BOM gets finalized during the design itself. And I guess we are clear with this analogy. So if you are not there in the BOM, it's very difficult to get into the final product. And whenever there is a 4M change, for example, if there has to be an Indian supplier and then he has to get into the component, whenever there is a 4M change, the approval process is extremely difficult with the OEMs. I guess people from the OEMs will appreciate what I'm talking about. So vendors normally try to avoid this delay and the risk by sticking to the existing suppliers. The minor advantage that price reduction offers when sourcing of electronic components in India is offset by the other factors such as delay at the customer approval and extremely high validation costs and time. Next. Next. Woori and the car air conditioning system. Indian OEMs have evolved over the period of time based on predominantly the consumer behavior. 10 years ago, only high-end cars had fully automatic control systems, or you can also call them as climatronic AC systems. But now, even the mid-segment cars have the same. Consumers would want to use an automatic control system in their cars. This directly increases the usage of electronic components in the car. Usage of higher number of semiconductor components and other electronic components in the HCP. Next. Increase in the usage of actuators in the HVAC system and addition of FET in the HVAC system. If you see the screen here, you can clearly see the growth from 2000 onwards till now. Initially, we only had the manual control panels where you use the cable system to use inside the cabin where you get the fresh air, or to use the temperature to control the temperature. You normally use the cables, but now everything is there with the press of a button. So people have started evolving, and that brings in a lot of change into the cabin of the car. And this is a huge opportunity for the electronic component system. Having said that, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Next. Even though the tunnel is slightly a bit longer. The challenges that we faced over the last 2 years or so due to exchange rate fluctuation, political issues with China, logistical problems, and also, as we all know, due to Corona, this has put a lot of thrust to localize the electronic components. Components that can be localized in our industries are predominantly PCB boards, the semiconductor components like diodes, transistors, ICs, LEDs and LCDs, and electromechanical components such as resistors, capacitors could be localized and start using in the Indian industry. Next. Next. Electronics in the air conditioning segment. Next. The import prices are completely volatile, and if you depend on China for your imports, the less said is better. The currency fluctuation makes life even more difficult. Hence, to mitigate these risks, the noise to localize becomes louder by the day. In 2004, when we started in India, the usage of electronic components in our company was almost zero. 17 years now, and it has grown to almost 100 crores annually. And here I'm able to show some of the companies which are doing similar products like us, and there are almost 10 companies right now. When we started, we were the only one who were actually making this heater control panels in India. Most of the other companies used to purchase it from abroad. Whereas when we set it up here, we were the first ones to start, one of the few ones to start initially, and then now there are almost 10. Next. Now I'll briefly explain to you about our path towards localization and how exactly we got through. Though the direct cost savings are not drastic, the indirect savings such as inventory holding costs, the import duties, the exchange rate fluctuations, logistic delays are substantial to make localization worthwhile. We have successfully localized PCB boards with our customers for the heater control panels, but it took a very, very long time. But it's worth it. Some of the challenges that we face during these localizations are basic reluctance by the customer to change. Since these are the brain of our part, any slight variation may lead to quality issues. So nobody would want to take the risk. The lack of confidence in local products at the decision-making level, extremely long approval process at the customer end, and customer validation requirements are very tedious and extremely stringent. And most importantly, manufacturing facilities for these components in India are not in par with global players. Direct cost savings is not significant while localizing. Some raw materials used in making these components are still imported because they are not available in India, either because of the material or because of lack of proper technology. Another important factor that we faced was having good skilled workforce who are familiar with the electronic components and the technology. So this was one of the factors that played a big role. However, we were successful through a lot of effort that we put in to get our PCBs localized, and now we are using the local components with our OEMs. Once the local supplier is approved with the OEM, we can use the same supplier for all future programs. However, when we use PCBs for the other smaller components such as actuators or the FETs, life is not so difficult. We can get approvals much easier from the customers right from the SOP. So these are some of the inputs that I would want to give in from our own industry about the opportunities that are available for the companies in India to start approaching the companies which are importing these electronic components from abroad, so that we can start having more of localization in India. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Richard Putota, especially for inviting me, and to the Elsinore team for giving me this opportunity. I also like to thank my colleagues Vinod and Beno for helping me to put this presentation together. And if you have any particular questions, please feel free to get in touch with us at the end. Thank you. Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fernando. I think we've had 3 excellent presentations. We really appreciate the time and the valuable information which has been shared. If there are any questions, maybe we can take them now. We are about 30 minutes late, for which I'm very sorry, but I think there is a price which you have to pay if you want to get knowledge. So I would.
I think there is a little bit of a issue with Rajuji's either internet or something in his system. So I think we'll be happy to take any questions. If there is any, Yogesh, Rajesh, can you please coordinate? If you have any questions quickly, please. Yogesh, Rajesh?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I think there's a bit difficulty. Okay, so if there is any questions, we can forward it to the right person.
Yes, sir, surely will do.
Okay, thank you. I have a question in the meantime, just to break the ice, and I think any of the 3 speakers can talk about it. We always feel that India has signed the WTO, where ITA 1, where most of the electronic components are allowed under duty-free, practically zero duty. Do you guys face similar situation in automotive? If yes or no, based on the duty regime, do you think that the ecosystem would have developed even in the zero duty regime? I think this I can request Mr. Khan.
Yeah, I think today the duty structure or the zero duty still exists for most of the electronic components.
Sorry, I think I lost the connection somewhere and we're losing valuable time. Am I audible now?
Yeah, Rajuji, I just asked a question and I kind of try to manage in between. So now you are back, but I asked a question and Mr. Khan was trying to answer that, and then you can take it from there. Okay.
Yeah, so as I said, the government is still maintaining the 0% duty on the low value of electronic components, say like your transistors, capacitor, all your passive components are still at low value, are with 0% duty. But when you go to the high value components, where today the electronics industry is moving towards, say like displays. Now the displays, the government is looking at kind of moving it to a 16% duty. So yeah, definitely the thought process is to promote the Make in India initiative, no doubt about that. But having said that, do we have the ecosystem for display manufacturers to come and put factories in India? So that is a big question mark, still has to be answered. So until and unless that happens, you kind of import at 16% duty, and then you really are at a big disadvantage when you kind of make this similar infotainment or an instrument clusters, say out of Southeast Asian countries, say like Thailand or for that matter Indonesia. They do not have duty structure, and they have free trade agreement with China. So what happens eventually is we kind of lose out on these global opportunities, because today if you look at OEMs, okay, they don't make vehicles specific for a country. They make vehicles based on platforms. So they develop a vehicle for one country and it is kind of exported to multiple countries. So you don't kind of win business only for India, you kind of win business for global. So we definitely are at disadvantage when you really are paying such high amount of duty pay and getting the components into India and making those out of India. Even though India being a low cost country with low and cheap labor, you still are at disadvantage because of this high duty structure. And then second thing is, even today we are looking at kind of more and more higher chipset components, SOICs, and bigger chipsets requirement. And then slowly what is happening is it is towards moving towards higher duty for these components. And in the background, I think is mostly towards promoting the Make in India option. But until the ecosystem is set up, I don't think this option will kind of be helpful for the auto electronics.
Okay, thank you. So I think we are in a catch-22 or a vicious cycle. We just need to break that cycle and
Yeah,
start.
exactly.
Thank you. Rajuji, please. Okay.
Pareshji, yes, I'm keeping my my video off. I think there is some problem here. Twice
Okay.
I have lost connection. I'm very sorry for that, because we are losing valuable time. So I would just thank all the three speakers, and maybe we will continue to take some questions in the Q&A boxes. So I would request the participants please put their questions there, and we can answer them at the end of the session. We will quickly, sir, move on to the next session, because we are really getting very late, which is
Yes.
on human resources for high-tech manufacturing. ESDM requires affordable and skilled manpower. So this is an issue which has been raised by a number of members in the southern region, because cost of manpower has been going up. So we thought that we will take it up as one of the sessions in this particular webinar, and for which I would like to request Mr. N. Ramachandran, our past president and MD of Mel Systems and Services, well-known, doyen of the industry. I will not introduce you, sir. I don't think we even have time for introductions, and everybody knows you well. So I will just request you to quickly, take up the session. And I also welcome Dr. Dr. Sriram Srinivasan, CEO of Sirma Technology, Mr. Shashi Kumar Gendam, MD of Salcom Manufacturing, and Mr. Sajan P. David, the VP Electronics, who are the panelists in the session. So thank you very much to all four of you, and over to you, Mr. Ramchandran. Sir, I'm sorry, but once again we are getting late, and you do an excellent job of squeezing the time. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Raju. In fact, the problem is generally HR and the human relations is an exceedingly important subject, but generally it gets a very, in terms of timing in most of the seminar, it gets to the squeeze to the last minute, but doesn't matter. We will try and do the best of what time we have. So thank you very much, and welcome to my fellow panelists. I'll just quickly run through just 2 slides, just in terms of my impression on what the problems we have in terms of manpower. But really, the 3 of you are the people who really are experienced. You are the people who really employ a large number of people, and you are facing it. I must say that again, your companies are doing a great job in training people. Not really. The job, the companies need to get involved and spend a lot of resources, which you people are really doing. That's really nice. And in fact, I must say that I must acknowledge also the fact that Shashi and Sriram are also helping me in one of our, CSR activities where we are trying to train for young people, train in terms of their improving their skills in electronics, and they are really being exceedingly helpful. And thank you. And and I'm sure the Amara Raja Group is doing a lot of work in this area as well. So I'll just quickly run through a few points which I wanted to convey, and then I would love to hear from all the three of you because you are the people who are on the ground. Thanks. Next, please. We have a huge challenge. I would say we have lost in India 70 years because our entire education and training system is an inverted pyramid. We concentrated on promoting both socially and otherwise the engineering education and completely ignored the vocational training and the skills required for large number of factory workers. See, today, or even an electrician who comes home. An electrician who comes home is completely untrained. He just tries and he learns by his mistakes at your cost. So I think, we missed the bus for 70 years, maybe slowly we're trying to come back. See, we have a large number of mostly unemployable engineering graduates. We are I think, graduating some 300,000 or 400,000 engineers every year. And we have 600 colleges in Tamil Nadu. Industry can't compete. Again, even with those guys, the electronics or other core industries can't compete with software, Zomato and Ola. I think today, most of the engineers would love to go to work for Zomato or Ola because it's, the pay they get is earning is much better. We have less polytechnic graduates. We have less ITIs, and ITIs are not maintained well. I think the Germans have an excellent model here. I think Indian government, I remember that, they made some deal with them to take their help, but I don't see much happening in that area. But the society is also to be sensitized. Everybody in India, every family in India wants their children to be either an engineer or a doctor, nothing else. I mean, this kind of a brainwashing at the early stage, you are not going to get, a society where people are available at proper skill sets for industry or otherwise. The skill development councils are doing now a good job, but their training is, I find that it's too short, not enough to train the people properly, and it's really turned into a commercial proposition and not really as helpful to the industry. So the burden is on the industry to train. I mean, all of you in the industry are really struggling with it. You spend resources, you spend a lot of time and energy on this, which is really not the job of the industry. You must be able to get proper trained. See, the cost of employees go up. One of the main reasons is this, that you will have to train them, and you train them well, and then within 2-3 years, it's very easy for other industry to poach them. So you spend that money and you lost them. So it's a very complex issue. Next, please. Next. Okay, just a quick few suggestions on the way forward. One is the in-depth training to be available universally. When I say in-depth training, I'm saying across vocational and every aspect of the training. In fact, the last 3 years in school to have a choice of vocational subjects. See, it used to be there. When I did my school, there was an option for you to take on some vocational training for the last couple of years. I think it should be made compulsory. Last 3 years in school must be, a student must be able to take a choice, electronics, textile, whatever, you can choose and take the training. If he goes for engineering, it's anyway paves his way for an understanding, or he can straight away go into a factory job if that's possible. Then, ITIs to be strengthened. Actually, they're quite neglected. And if you visit many of the ITIs, they're all in ramshackle buildings and no real staff. And they have to be strengthened because they should be also part of the vocational training plan for the government. then certification to be made compulsory for technicians and factory hiring. I think, today we are hiring skill. See, today skill levels have dramatically changed over the years. Today you can't allow, people to work with machines which are sophisticated. You can't allow them to, work on hazardous areas without training. But which, we have a great saying of Jugaad, by which we just say that the cost is good, so that anybody can work on anything. That has to change. Diploma and engineering education to be reoriented, and the final year of that should be, industrial work experience. I think all of them must be asked to work in the industry for last 1 year, and then when they are out of the college in 4 years, they are almost industry ready. So the industry need not have to spend so much resources to train them. And of course, the engineering, that's possible only if there are some manageable engineering seats. Most of the unviable engineering colleges can be shut and have less number of engineering seats where you can spend time and energy on imparting excellent education to these guys and some training. IITs actually should become research centers. Then they should feed the technology to other institutions. They should be strengthened and then made. I think there was a plan to actually eliminate beta courses from IITs and have only masters and PhDs, and they turn them into a center of excellence in specific areas. I think that would be really good, and then they can feed that technology into other institutions and to industries. I think this is a very, very serious issue, and I don't think the powers that we are spending enough, time on this. Okay, there are this skill development organizations, but definitely they are also not spending enough time with the industry to specify what type of training. And it's, if you ask me, that's also a lot of become a commercial business enterprise. Right. Thank you very much. That just I thought I'll just introduce the subject with a few points, and may I now request Sriram to take on his slot, please. Sriram, 10 minutes, right? Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks, Ram, for setting the context. I think you've touched on almost all the key challenges and the key opportunities wonderfully. So there is nothing much for me to add. Having said that, of course, I have my own views about things. I actually wanted to, we all know, see, we employ almost close to 3,000 people between, just in the state of Tamil Nadu, we are probably about 2,700. And then, in the state of Haryana, we are about 300. And a good percentage of it, I would say 90+% are women, thanks to the kind of industry that I work in. It attracts a lot of women. Not only that, I don't know, many of you may not know this, but our chairman, Mr. M.L. Tandon, was the one in the late 70s when fought a case all the way to the Supreme Court for allowing women to work in all 3 shifts. And that's a landmark judgment that is actually being quoted and used as precedent for many other industries today. That also I found out because when I was doing this presentation, somebody from the nursing industry, from the hospitals, they came and told us, look, we have used your chairman's judgment to be ruled in our favor. So that's wonderful. So I think an unwritten mission for Sirma and the Tandon Group has been to empower and employ more women. So thanks to that, that we have been able to do that. But the challenge there is the large chunks of women are still untapped. I'll tell you why in a minute. Second is, of course, there's a lot of coaching going on. Ram, you spoke of skilling up. We as a rule in Sirma have always taken people from the villages, totally unskilled. You should, one favorite pastime for me I can watch the gate from where I sit. If I stand up, I can watch the in gate, and I can see some of these young recruits standing up, lining up in front of the gate, and one by one they walk in as security clears them and gives them a badge and all that. And the first day, how this girl walks, and then after 15 days, after the training, how their gait changes, how their confidence changes. It's such a pleasure to watch. How these girls get transformed within nothing less than 2 weeks. That's the kind of confidence or empowerment that we are talking about. At some point we have even said, if people are poaching, let them poach. At least we have done our bit for the society. We have done our bit for corporate social responsibility without calling it that. We are not interested in tags. Many of the girls who probably don't even know how to wear a PPE are in 6 months to 1 year going for another job, passing an interview and getting herself another job, and probably also a small increase in wages, which is very good to see. For us, that is developing the person, and I think God will be kind to us down the road for all the good work we are doing. Okay, the second thing is, the third thing that I want to talk about is, women, if you go into the villages, you will still find them used for very low skill jobs, low paying jobs, like cashew picking and other agri related jobs, because that's all there is to do. So one thing that we have done is not only skill up these girls, but go to the villages and set up plants there for at least the initial rudimentary operations. So we can quickly skill them up. We can give them pay parity. We can have minimum wages that the Tamil Nadu government pays. We can give them a very safe environment to work in, and we can attract the best of the best, and we can actually tap into a resource that is available in the villages and the districts of Tamil Nadu. We have now gone all the way about 250 kilometers from Chennai and set up these satellites, as we call them. So that's one thing. So just to give a perspective of the first point, which I said, large chunks of women are still unemployed or untapped. See, if you look at the national average of girls getting married, the average age is about 22.3 years. And in the southern states, in Tamil Nadu especially, you will see that age is 25.6. In Kerala, it is 27.3. That's 3 percentage points on possibly a national, for about, every year there are 10 million girls being born. If you take it like that, it's almost, you're talking about, 1 year is about 20 million. So every of total, if you take 3 years, 30 million, and then you add 3% to that, you're suddenly looking at, 90 lakhs or so of women who can be tapped for employment because they're getting married later in life, right? So I think the southern states are leading the way because the age at which they get married is slightly bigger, which means you've got so much more women available for employment. But even in Tamil Nadu, the number of girls who get married below the age of 18 is still about 2%, which is lost cause, because they are not, once they have kids, once they have a family, they are not going to come and work in an industry. But you still have a big chunk of people, women who are available between 20 and 25, at least in the state of Tamil Nadu, who need to be skilled up, who are now stuck in very low paying, no safety, no industrial practice, agri related jobs, and they are all there for us to go out there and tap them. And I think, forget the German model. Let's create an Indian model where we do this not only for the boys but also for the girls. Not all people are going to engineering colleges and trying to become Bs. That's a separate problem we have. We have these lakhs of people coming out with very few soft skills. Only 17% are employable, and they are picked up by the Zomatos and the Olas and all those people. So to write code. So So we are not even talking about that. That's another problem that we will talk another day. But there are still people out there in the villages who are willing to even commute 50, 60, 70 kilometers every day to where work is. But it will be even better if we go to them, and set up these small plants, give them rudimentary skills, teach them industrial practice, and give them equal pay for equal work. And they're going to be with you for a very long time. And you have done this society, this country, this state a great favor. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry, maybe I went a little over, but I became a little passionate about the subject. Sorry, Ram.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sriram. It's very, very interesting observation and a good way forward in terms of ensuring there is women empowerment. I mean, we keep talking about it, but this is a definite way of doing it. And thanks a lot. May I now request Shashi to speak, please.
So thank you. After both yourself and Sriram just speaking, there's very, very, very little left for me. But I'll just take a couple of minutes only to kind of sum up and all this. So first and foremost, again, thank you so much for the opportunity. And as Sriram just said, so this is a very passionable topic. And then we have almost close to 10,000 people working around, and most of them being women. And exactly as you, Sriramji, when I kind of go up to the window, the best time is to be there, like 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So that's when you see people going out and coming in. It's such a pleasure to watch, the pride they take in when they come to work and go every single day. So with that note, I would say that right now, electronics industry as such, more or less, when the moment you talk about electronics industry, I think they all directly related to women. So electronics, has got its own feel now that the moment anybody says electronics industry, there must be at least 90+ percentage of women. So it's become like that. I think it's a great story, a great success story altogether for many of us of having women employment for that matter. But then if I can say specifically what's happening right now, in terms of employment, I would really say that, there is really shortage of people and shortage of skilled people. So to get them at very short notice. So especially in the cadres of technical staff. I mean, we have a lot of people when it comes to general assembly and all that, but in technical, at this moment, when several projects are being transferred from China or elsewhere for the reason of geographical diversification, which many multinational companies are doing today. The biggest challenge that companies are facing, and including ours, is that can we have the right people on board quite quickly? So that's become a challenge, to be honest, more so during the pandemic. And technicians and operators. So all of this leads to knowledge versus skills. I think we have people who have read through the documents, who have read through books, who have gone through their exams and all that. But when it comes to skills, extremely pathetic, unfortunate to say that. So it's we are really becoming training schools, at least for the first couple of months. It's a cost. Assume that we have to train like 1,000 for about a month or two. It's a huge amount of money that we will have to spend. Having spent that money, again, retention is another thing, because there is another opportunity elsewhere. So the moment you get skilled right now, so when there's opening, you can even face the next interview very confidently, because at least you have learned a couple more things. So this has become another challenge. Least to say is that vaccination, right now we have vaccinated almost 95% of our people. All are paid vaccines. But I see that almost 500 people already vanished after vaccine, meaning that okay, they're just leaving for some reason. Women employees, they go here, their absenteeism and all that. So it's again another cost. So this training therefore has become somewhat. You have rightly put it, Ramchandran sir. Then it's really a burden on the industry to spend money, and we are happy to spend money. But then again, the longevity of the candidate has become shorter these days, unfortunately. So they just keep hoping jobs, and getting them to the right skill levels have become a challenge. But will this situation change? I think, definitely situation is improving with a lot of automation. While we still speak, technical resources, availability of people, and even with 10,000 people, the way to go is also automation. It is not just for the sake of lower cost, but also mostly on the point of reliability and consistency of, for example, a large OEM who makes products across the globe. They want to get exactly same quality, same consistency levels, same yield levels, whatsoever that's happening in all their lines, wherever they produce. They don't want to see a difference, good or bad. They want it to be kind of same. So having said that, the skilling has been a big topic for all of us, and availability of people at the right time and with the right skills. How do we bridge this gap? I think we have been talking about this for many years. We have all taken very little steps. Sriramji has taken some steps. We have taken some steps, but it's not enough. I mean, we can only do so much that we can do. But I think the participation of government, participation of institutes, and one thing which you rightly mentioned also is that, can we make this final year of whatever, whether it's a diploma, 6 months can be the final year project. If it's a graduate, then at least 1 year, they spend with the industry. At least the gap and the expectations of what an industry is all about. I had three students come from Bangalore last week. For the very first time, they visit a factory. For them, a factory means a very dirty place with a lot of grease and then torn cloths everywhere, something like this. This is kind of the vision they have. The moment they were in our factory, they were like Alice in Wonderland. They could not believe that this kind of high tech factories are available in India. I mean, imagine a candidate comes for the very first day after interview, then in the shop floor, they're really frightened, with seeing all of these things. So that 1 year is really a mandatory thing. I think somehow as an industry, we should make a strong pitch towards implementing this. It will only is so much help us all together. And second, the industry also can be provided certain benefits. I mean, when we talk about all the CSR funds and all that, I think the time and money that we spend on training, so part of that at least could be considered towards the CSR spending, so that we are also not burdened. So this is something that I want to kind of specifically mention at this stage. If we can get this academic industries, academy and industry together to bridge this gap. And second thing is, the most important thing is that moving towards rural, which Sriramji touched upon. Though we have 10,000 people around, but then hardly 20 or 25% of them are in and around our factory area. So most of them are migrant population. They come down here. They either stay on their own, or they stay with relatives or whatever in faraway places, and we go as high as long as 100 kilometers in every single day to pick up. So the safe staying conditions for them would also a little bit help the employee retention and also an overall well-being, because that also has a direct impact on productivity and their performances we have. So to that extent, so we have already kind of taken a decision that we are building our own dormitories too. So we will have one of the first high-tech dormitories in Chennai area, maybe in the end of by this time next year. We should also be having then. So this will, why are we doing this? Because one is well-being, and second also, can we also skill them additionally? Because nowadays there is no time, because they work for 8 hours and they leave. It's a 3-shift operations. They leave at the end of the shift. So there is no time so much, that you can spend hours training them and skilling them. So at least this extra time that they have can be used to skill them and train them. Of course, it has to be paid, but at least the availability is there. So that's one reason also, we look at having our people stay close to us to provide additional possibilities. Maybe that might also help in retention of people. So yeah, so this is all I have to say in a very few comments. Sorry about that, but then I thought this kind of vital things, at least what we see our industry we see, will need, because employment is going to be in thousands and 10,000s. I mean, we aim to have a couple more thousands, in coming months. I don't know, getting people have become a real challenge.
Thank you very much, Shashi. You laid down all the ground realities and that needs to be done. May I now invite Mr. Sajal David to speak, please.
We can't hear you, Sajidji. You are
You're on
on
mute. You're on mute.
Been listening. Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yeah, thank you, Ramachandran sir. Thank you, Dr. Sriram, Shish Kumar. I think you have touched upon most of the big points that we should be covering today. I'll take a little, slightly a few points from our own experiences and as to how what we have done at least, and probably what could be a path forward also for this situation. See, for those of you who are aware of the part of AP, including the district of Chittoor, that was not a very highly industrialized, plenty or a populous area with available workforce. From the days that Amar Raja as a group started business there. In our own chairman's words, way back in 1985, when he started his small power electronics company in Tirupati, there was no suppliers, there was no engineers, there was no customers, there was actually nobody in. He says that there he was, back from US, all by himself, and then there was Balaji. So that is a point from where Amar Raja Group has taken the mantle, creating multiple companies over a period of time. I come from the electronics company, which is employing a small portion of the overall employable employees that we have. Today, we have around 16,000 employees in the district of Chittoor, and all of our manufacturing is in AP in Chittoor. And in my factory, we have around 850 people. So there has been a long journey that we had come through, from which we are taking cues of how to handle this situation. The COVID has also taught us another thing, which I don't think that any of them thought at that point of time. We found, in my own experience, I have worked in 3 areas, like which I call as urban areas where there are factories. Then we have the urban industrial area. Then we have the rural industrial areas. Some of the focus was from the government, but while some of the focus, some companies have made it by themselves. So we belong to a genre where most of it has been done by the company itself, and with a great participation from the local community. So I will not go in length about it. Couple of things that what we have done as a learning would be, apart from the on-the-job training. See, let us not take 30 years down the line, even 10 years back from today, the amount of employable workforce, I'm talking about the workman category, which is again electronics is mostly women, while our other factories are mostly men. We had also had a very big shortage of skilled manpower who are directly employable. So somewhere around 2012-13 period, as a group, we set up something what we call as the Amar Raja Skill Development Center. Let me just show you 1 second picture of that. I'm just looking at from the website only. Just share the screen for a minute.
Yes, Sajan, I have seen that institute. Very beautiful institute.
Yeah, thank you. Can you see the institute picture? Or
yes, we can.
Yeah,
we can see that.
Yeah. So this is something that we created, and just to give you an idea, it's a very state-of-the-art facility. I'm stopping sharing, and this has been one of the core strengths on which we have addressed this problem. Of course, as you rightly said, the amount of people that we can get from the locality, definitely they were not skilled. Plus the number of people we could get from ITI and the quality of those people also. Some are good, but many times it is not. So every we run a course where every 3 months they go through a complete 3 months course, classroom course, including laboratories, and then they go in for a on-the-job training, whereby we provide them with hostels, girls' hostels, men's hostel is there, girls' hostel is there, and it's a full-fledged facility. They are being paid the stipend also, even during they are going through the online, classroom coaching time. So I would request that this could be a small model in terms of the whole aspect of things, but something has been created in Tirupati. Not exactly in Tirupati. It is a village called Petameta, very rural area. And we provide almost every batch, we have around 200 to 250 students that is coming in. There are +2, I mean, SSLC, and then, people who are not skilled. They go through excellent skilling with various trades. That was one part of it. The second part we are doing now is, we are also setting up, in the process of setting up, a skill development center exclusively for electronics. This will be in a village called Digumbagam in Chittoor district. And thanks to Mr. Shashi Kumar, I think we also go through a very deep study where, including our chairman, goes and visit state-of-the-art companies in India. And Mr. Shashi Kumar was very kind to host him and our team there. I was not in that visit, but our key people from our HR and other training centers was with him. And Mr. Shashi Kumar was there for hosting him in Salcom. Like that, we are understanding and studying the environment where we collect the data, and we are going to do something on our own. And all these students have absolutely no compulsion to join with us. They are free to go and join anywhere. So I'm just telling you a few things that we have practically done in this. Another advantage I'm seeing being in rural is that the non-migratory workforce, the percentage of that is higher in rural. They see this as a employment which is transforming their lives, improving their quality of life, and giving them a sustainable family structure where even there are so many stories there where the woman, especially in electronics, I would say, the woman being on their own foot, how they have moved up in their life. So that there are so many inspiring stories to it. So that is one advantage that we got accidentally by being in a rural area. Of course, there are other challenges being in a rural area, running factories in rural areas, and all that thing is there. There's always two sides of the coin. So these are some of the small things. I would definitely, agree with Mr. Shashi that apart when we always talk about the workforce, but ESDM has got the other side of it, where we want excellent program managers, we want excellent designers in the field, good people with good engineering skills, functional excellence readers. So I also feel that great supply chain people. Today, I think in ESDM industry, we have a shortage of this. And people are moving from one company to the other. We know how many companies are there. And then, people move from one point to other. So this is happening. So I don't think we can help it at the moment. Only way is that when the industry grows, I believe we'll have enough professionals who can actually take the business forward. So although we are we have to be very careful and nurture the growth of the workforce, we also have to find ways of skilling. Definitely when we are working on, I have seen many times in my career itself, when we are working with global customers, in many companies that I work, the way that we are handling the business require a more skill in the which our people are still to achieve. So there is that genre is coming up. The younger generation is catching up to the fast. And I'm sure that electronics industry is now recognized as a industry of choice. We are, as you rightly said, these are clean factories, lean factories, clean factories. It's not the thing. When I studied mechanical engineering, my idea was factory was the same. It's like grease and all that thing. But later on, when worked in these kind of industries, those are preferred industries, whether women or other things. But yeah, Dr. Srima mentioned about empowerment of women. You come to our factory, we run 3 shifts with women. You will see, we very proudly tell our customers and our visitors that women operate all the machines in our factory. They are skilled to that level, and these are all women from the very rural background. And over the years, they have really come up, and I think we can keep the story going on. We can talk quite a lot, but in the interest of time, I think I should stop. I think it's time for me. So thank you once again for giving me these opportunities to share some small things that we have done. And I also invite you, any one of you, if you would like to come and visit the Skill Development Center, let me know. I will arrange the visits. Definitely, it's a good center to see, and also have some takeaways from there. For any industry, may not be electronics is yet to come, but it is for any industry that will be helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. David. It was wonderful. In fact, to listen to these three gentlemen who have done enormous amount of work in development of you know, people, especially women, it's fantastic. I think there's a lot of learning on this. And some of the, Raju, I think, and the president, some of the recommendations arising out of the discussions today, maybe you should really make these recommendations to HR ministry and keep talking to them, because see, the point we made about last 1 year of engineering should be work experience or in diploma, and revamping the vocational training. Some of these recommendations, I think, see today, electronic industry in the past did not employ as many people, so it was not a major issue. But today, electronic industry is going to employ huge number and it's going to increase. So without skills, and especially into modern manufacturing, it's going to be a disaster. So I think I would strongly urge Pareshji and Raju to take this as one of the key subjects for recommendation, where you work with the HR ministry and get things done. And thanks a lot, for the panelists, and thank you, Raju, for this opportunity given to us. And let me hand it over to you. Thank you.
So I would just like to make a small comment here. Thank you, to all the panelists. But one thing is that, as a comment, I feel that while a lot of work has been done on skill development, and last 7-8 years we have this NSDC, which is very active. We have Electronics Sector Skill Council, but because I'm on the board of the Electronic Sector Skill Council, and I find that most of the skills in which they are in which they are training are for services. There are very few trainings which are really happening on the hardware side. Maybe a couple have now started, but so I think that is one of the reasons that possibly there are very few people who are interested to get into hardware firstly. But I guess that will change gradually as the demand grows and the employment opportunities grow. What I would request is that there is a request from Mr. Rajiv Venkatraman that if any of the panelists can comment briefly on the labor code and what is happening in your state with respect to the minimum wages and all that, because I think the MSMEs are very adversely impacted by that. I'm sure even the large companies are. If you could pay 1,000, 2,000 rupees more to 1,000 or 2,000 people, then you can multiply and come to a very large number. So are you as large companies also facing the same problem? Is there any comment you have on the National Labor Code, which is trying to segment all the labor issues into 4 categories? I read about it some time back, but I have not heard anything very recently. Though I do believe now that most of the states are coming up with their own minimum wages rates and all that, and everybody is kind of enhancing it quite a bit. So while enhancing it is fine, but if somebody suddenly takes it up to twice or thrice, or maybe even 50-60% increase over 1 year or 2 years, it becomes difficult to absorb that. So I guess if the increase is happening, it should be gradual and in steps. So I think that is what was the comment from Mr. Rajiv Venkatraman. So if there is any comment any of you would have on that, kindly share with us. Though we are late, but I guess another 5 minutes won't matter. Then we'll hear Mr. Richard Kathota.
Sure. So let me just add up to what you said, Rajuji. See, this the wage codes. Right now it's all mostly state driven, and at least in the state of Tamil Nadu, we have not seen a significant jump when it comes to the minimum wages increase. So there has always been this 5% or a maximum of 8% increase in the categories that we operate, especially electronics. But then, which I think is very kind of sustainable. The reason is if the inflation itself is 4-5%, and your actual increase of 6% or 8% is not that large. That's first thing, and that is why you also have to complement that with automation to kind of offset some of the costs. Even with automation, we are recruiting all the time. We are not making jobs redundant. We are more skilled jobs are coming. So that's the first thing. But some states have drastically increased, is what I understand, on the minimum wages, which may be a challenge because If you're supplying to, for example, large OEMs and all the, I mean, or, into the governmental sector, I don't think, we would really accept that such a huge increase that's coming up. Of course, we will have to ask you, if is there any alternative way that you can offset this with automation or any other possibilities. So that's my feedback on that. But then on the second part on a national code, I mean, if we are trying to have one, one nation, one ration card. So if you plan to have in a one nation, one wage code, it's definitely going to be a disaster. That's for sure. I can tell you already now, because the wages what a person gets in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, or it's not the same wages that can be paid. I mean, states will become uncompetitive. As simple as that. When states are competing now, one of the key points they bring up is also in a total cost of owning an operator or owning an employee. But then I'm not sure if the intention is to go with one nation, one salary code, but I'm sure there would be some segmentation in that. We need to wait for it because it's all still in cooking. But then anything more than double-digit increase, it is going to be a big problem for the whole industry. I mean, I'm not saying that we should not have increases, but it should be a sustainable increase and not like in one go. Because today, if these companies that I mentioned, are transferring to India or elsewhere, I mean, one of the main reason is, of course, geographical diversification. But of course, they do that also with the intention, where they can also get additional benefits out of India. With the lower cost of manufacturing. I don't want to say lower labor cost, but total cost of manufacturing being lower. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, this is my kind of 2 cents input.
Anything from you, Sajjanji or Dr. Shriram? Any comment? I mean,
no, I just want to add.
Yeah,
just want to add to what Sashi said. I think it's a state subject, and each of the states will rule on based on its own approach to the whole thing. But more importantly, what the center is doing in this case is also ensuring that more elements of the salary become, be counted for PF, etc. And they want everybody registered for PF so that they can flaunt these employment figures everywhere. So this unorganized or semi-organized sector, not for paying them less, but it's not just the minimum wages, but it's also the add-ons that is going to change quite significantly. So that my only worry on that is while people will make more money, it will drive a lot of industry to automation, which is not the right solution for India. While we have so many people unemployed and to be employed, an employable population with a little bit of skilling up, why would you take a Western model and force everybody to go into automation? Then you're killing the whole story here of demographic dividend and all that. So that's my worry. While I have absolutely no problem in paying more based on skills, I think this is a worry that we have. So for that reason, at least we have to keep taking up these salary slabs in a phased manner, so that the industry can get used to the whole idea.
I think those were good inputs. I think if there is nothing else, then we can move on to Mr. Richard Puthota. Sajjanji, would you like to make a comment or two on this?
Yeah, maybe nothing much to add than the words that Mr. Shashi and Dr. Sriram mentioned. See, there are some of the good things on this policy also. We probably would come as the simplification of the laws. Probably some 29 laws is being replaced with 4. They are addressing social security, protection of employee benefits, effectiveness of the info. So many things are there which probably can streamline a lot of things. But at the same time, how the minimum wages will come up is something yet to be seen. I don't think that we have a real idea at the moment to talk about it. It is, although welfare of labor is definitely always a central government and a state government subject always. So it's always has different strings pulling it to different directions. While every one of us will agree that reasonable increases are welcome, and of course our customers always wants costs down, but that's another side of the story. But you can't choose it, right? So, but at the same time, we have to, if reasonable increases are there, I am sure it is welcome. But double-digit increases all on a sudden, and unified code across states, those are things that might have real impact. Automation definitely is a last word from me is like automation is definitely a solution, but how far we can automate in our industry, this also depends on the design by which our customers bring it. Some of the things that we can do from our thing when new designs come, many designers bring up very great designs, but very complex to manufacture. So DFM probably is one area which I ask my engineering team to look at it. See at the design table itself how far these manual-oriented process, which is especially in many industries, they have sometimes space to play around on the real estate on the board, and designs that can be simplified to make it more automation friendly or more process friendly rather than having more of manual process. Some, to a small extent at least, we can work from the DFM side of it. Otherwise, these are things that we have to yet wait and see. So fully agree with the panelists that we are little at a fluid state at the moment to make any further comment on it.
Thank you so much, Sajanji, and to all the panelists. We had, Mr. Ramchandran, of course, whom everybody knows, and the three panelists were not formally introduced, but I think they are three big leaders of the industry, and they're really driving all three. Sirma, of course, and Amar Raja, and everybody knows how fast Shashi Kumar ji is sprinting with the ball. I think he has done a great job on bringing so much to this industry and to our country. So thank you to all three of you, and to Mr. Ramchandran sir. Thank you so much for chairing the session. It's been a really nice one. The subject is not very exciting, but it's very important. So I think we need to take care of that. I will now quickly hand over for some last comments, and I think Mr. Richard Pathota wants to share something a little bit.
No, Rajuji, I think there are no slides. I can talk actually just because in the interest of everyone time, I can cover that. Most of them are actually overlapped with the others' presentations, so it's okay.
Okay, whatever you choose, but you had said that you will show a few slides, and it's dinner time anyway, so it doesn't matter another 5 minutes.
Okay. We really had two excellent sessions. Actually, if you ask me, this is one of the best sessions I ever had from Elsina. Both the topics were of immense interest, and I will go from the last sessions. When I looked at the sessions of especially the ESDM industry, human resources for ESDM industry. I mean, I know the people who spoke about these three gentlemen, moderated by Mr. Ramachandran. I mean, they're extremely passionate people. I had been to their facilities. I have seen them, how they handle people. And whatever they said is very appropriate. There is definitely, a gap in training the people. Sashi and I, whenever we meet, this subject will definitely come up, and we do talk about it very often. In fact, I want to have a special mention for Sashi here. Sashi actually volunteered to give some of the equipment to us to actually set up a training center. And I would say now, Ram sir, even you had this anxiety how to bridge this gap. But from whatever we can from our company, what we have done is with our CSR funds, we have bought a SMT line now. We invested on a SMT line, and we are placing it in IIT Madras. And it is not just for IIT Madras last year of engineering studies, the last semester. And it is meant for everyone, public and any engineer who has already done engineering or who is in the last year can come and enroll, study there, and I have already prepared the curriculum, especially for assembly side. If if the industry is willing to co-opt or cooperate, I mean collaborate there, they are welcome. And in fact, with the other skills, because we are not good at program management or something like that, so we'll be good at assembly part, connecting the joints. But whereas other industries can come join us, train the people, and they can actually absorb the people, and there is no cost involved there for I mean absorbing. The HR people can come there, look at them, and absorb them. And I had been to even Amar Raja at almost about 7-8 years ago. Mr. Galla took me and showed those training centers. I would say that I mean very I mean very well designed, very well kept center. And the important thing is the people from the villages who don't know even how to speak English, they take them, they make them speak English, they skill them. I mean fitter or welder or whatever skill they have, and they absorb them for their own industry in Tirupati for batteries, or now in the electronic industry. And there is a anecdote, and Apollo's owner also is from the same village, Mr. Galla and Apollo, Mr. Reddy, and they have a nursing training center as well there. And all those girls are very innocent, coming from the village background. They have trained them so well, and now they are all proud, proudly watching them employed and doing it extremely well, just like the way Mr. Sriram and Sashi feel during the breaks, watching the little girls now speaking English. Once I visited Sashi's factory. I was amazed. One girl who came from a rural village, training the people in English. And I had a visitor from South Africa, and he kept talking about it for 1 year with me. He was so impressed. So I mean, there is really there is no lack of resources. We have resources, we have passion, which I see from Sriram, Sajan David and Sashi. And if we all work together, I think we can really develop, at least in southern region, some kind of a center for skilling people. And whatever support from people like us and Mr. Ramchandran, and from other component people also is available for you. So let's move on to the other subject. I mean, automotive electronics. This is another industry, I mean, segment in the industry, which is really moving very well in the that in terms of volumes. We are seeing a lot of manufacturers which we may not even be aware. I mean, Claudius Uri Automotive, we may not even know, because we know them for a while, and what the kind of electronics they assemble there. Like that, we have Hyundai's subcontractors, Visteons. There are several people in the southern region who are also doing a great job of automotive electronics here. And the component supply chain, whenever we visit them, is very weak for them. At the most, I see they get some kind of assembly materials either from Mr. Ramchandran's distribution or from us. That's all we see there, and we don't. And wherever I go, we recommend local PCB manufacturers, because that's one thing easily can be recommended. Other than we don't have other semiconductor setups here, but we can at least recommend those components which they can buy. So one of the major beneficiaries are the PCB manufacturers like Ascent. They kind of have 80% of automotive business in the southern region. So we have a lot of good opportunities way forward, but we also empathize, understand the assemblers, EMS, OEMs manufacturing here. I'm struggling with supply chains. Like Elsina can be there representing the industry to bridge this gap of lack of supply chain, at least in the component side. to some extent, like Sashi always said, he has crossed 50% to 60% in his localization. And if we keep those targets alive all the time, there is a way, probably in the way forward, within a short period of time, we start getting sourcing components locally here. So my special thanks to Mr. Khan, Mr. Arvapalli, Mr. Claudius, Sashi, Sriram, Sajan David, on behalf of President of Elsina, Paresh Ji, Rajiv, our Southern Chairman, Regional Chairman, and Raju Ji, and the Elsina staff, the members of Elsina and non-members who are attending it. It was a great session. I'm extremely happy that this went on so well today. Over to you, Raju Ji.
Thank you so much, Richard. That was really brief and quick. I was looking forward to more information from you on the automotive side. But thank you so much. I think this is great.
I do have the slides, but I think we are packed. 2 hours. I'm 2.5 hours basically.
No, I think everybody is now kind of getting this thing. So, with a final word of thanks, if there is any comment from Paresh Ji or from Mr. Rajiv Venkatraman as president and as the chairman, just maybe a couple of whatever you would like to say, sir, and then we will close the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajuji. It was really a wonderful session today. I really thank all the speakers for taking the time and sharing all their knowledge and their experience with us today. Every one of them spoke with great authenticity, and it was a pleasure to hear them. And I'm very happy with the way the seminar has gone and how everyone has participated. I hope the people who have been listening have found it of value, and and they can always reach out to us for any further discussions on these subjects. The subject on the labor codes and the national wages is going to be, in my perspective, a very serious one. The way the government is driving it is towards a national minimum floor, which will upset multiple calculations across the country in many industries. It is something that needs to be looked out for, and there has to be an outreach from Elsina to the government to understand the direction they are taking, and also to the various state governments, because we are seeing slightly irrational moves happening in certain states, which can really upset the entire manufacturing apple cart, because these guys are looking at the Swiggies and the Zomatos and trying to set floors which are very difficult for the industry to work with. So this is something that I would say that the industry should be very careful about, and they should keep an eye out in the next few months and how this whole scenario develops. So those are the only things which I wanted to add. But I'm thankful to everybody for today's session, and hopefully we'll have many more as we go forward. Thank you very much. Rajji, over to you.
Pareshji, the final word from you, please, and then a good night and great thanks to everybody.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and hope to see you guys soon in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And special thanks to our guest speakers, Mr. Khan, Mr. Fernando, and Mr. Srinivas. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great seeing
Thank you. Thank you.
listening to all of you. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Good night. Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Mr. Claudius.
And thanks to Richard for all the effort.
Yeah, Richard, thank you very much for bringing all the speakers, and it was really wonderful. Really enjoyed it today. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.